As you heard, Governor Patterson is going forward with a plan to furlough state workers. That's something my next guest says is simply nuts. Steve Madarasz is the spokesman for CSEA. He joins us tonight in the studio to talk more about this plan. Hi, Steve. Thanks for coming by.
How are you?
So, nuts. Did you write? Was that you? Are you the World War II buff? Or
well,
it's
a reference. It's a reference from a famous statement by General McAuliffe during the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. But Danny Donahue certainly felt it was appropriate as a response to the governor's initial thrust on this issue, and frankly, with the follow-up on it today, we think it's still appropriate.
Well, the follow-up, actually, the governor had some harsh words for the union today, saying he thought it was he was completely shocked and he thought it was totally inappropriate for the union to mention people who were going off to war and put themselves in legion with that.
Sure. Well, the governor seems to have a penchant for distracting attention away from the main issue, which is that we need a state budget and we need a governor who will actually lead us there. The governor seems to think that creating chaos and crisis is leadership. It's not. He needs to be bringing people together, trying to deal with the big issues that are confronting the state, and instead he seems to just be out there week after week public employee bashing and talking to the media instead of getting down to the serious work of getting a budget done.
Okay, if you would indulge me in a moment of playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
I think many people who are not state workers, and of course we have a lot of viewers who are, feel like state workers have it pretty good, and they don't understand why it is that you can't say, okay, we're going to forego our 4% raise, which actually foregoing raises is something the unions have done in the past at times of fiscal crisis, or saying, you know, okay, you know, we'll reopen the contract
Sure.
and do gives back. So why not?
Well, first of all, we've been answering that question for the last 18 months over and over again, and the governor doesn't seem to hear it. He keeps coming back with the same issues with a little bit of a twist on it over and over again. First of all, a contract is a contract. We have a contract with the state of New York that was negotiated in good faith, and I have to make the point that CSEA doesn't negotiate one contract. We represent more than 1,000 different bargaining units all across the state in the public and the private sector, and if we were to reopen one contract, you basically are saying to every other employer out there that it's fair game to request that you reopen the contract. I would also point out that in the good times, nobody ever comes to us and says, let's reopen the contract and give employees more. It simply doesn't work that way. So you negotiate the contract, you have to live up to the terms of it. We have offered the governor over the last 18 months idea after idea. He is not interested in anything we have put forward. We have raised the issue of temporary workers being put in jobs for years in violation of state law and at costs of millions, tens of millions of dollars to taxpayers, and they're not interested in dealing with it.
Okay, wouldn't just a temporary freeze of the temporary freezes, okay, you're not going to get your raise this year, but you would get it next year when the state's fiscal picture increases. Wouldn't that be better than layoffs?
Well, the fact of the matter is the governor has a no layoff agreement that he negotiated with us a year ago, and now he wants to renege on that and is going through all these backdoor efforts to try to bash the employees. The fact of the matter is our members are out there with less help than ever before. They are working on the job, in many cases in forced overtime, which is costing state taxpayers money because there aren't enough people to actually adequately do the job and deliver the services that New Yorkers expect to receive. So, you know, to just go out there and bash our members and say they've got it too good really misses the forest for the trees. And the governor has to remember he's the boss to the state workforce, and what kind of tone is he setting in the way he's dealing with his employees.
When's your next contract?
The contract is actually up next March. And quite frankly, there would be a very realistic, you know, time frame right now to go in and start negotiating to deal with the issue. But his administration has made it perfectly clear they're not interested in negotiating.
He won't be governor come
Sure,
January.
but if he's trying to deal with a fiscal situation, the way you deal with it is at the table in negotiations. You don't simply say, this is what I expect you to do, and by the way, there's nothing on the other side of the equation for you.
Okay, the state's fiscal picture is not going to improve significantly anytime soon. I think that's probably a safe bet because the budget deficit is fairly large. Just in brief, do you expect that the next governor actually is going to be much better? I expect you'll endorse the Democrat.
Well, at this point, David Patterson really doesn't have a lot of credibility because he says one thing to us and then does something very different. But we fully expect, and we have over nearly 100 years now worked with Democrats and Republicans. We have worked cooperatively and have come to a fair and reasonable, responsible position in terms